Okay, I'm gonna try this again. For two reasons. One, the recording I just wasn't really saying very much. And two, my laptop nearly died just now. It screamed louder than I've ever heard it scream trying to install a Windows update. And OBS just crashed along with the game. I think it was because I turned the quality up and then tried to turn it back down. I don't know why, that just didn't like it. So yeah, I'm a bit concerned about this laptop being able to run this game, which is annoying. I really feel like I should have put more effort into optimization, but I just don't really know. Like I don't know. Let's just get on with it, because this is just gonna die otherwise. Alright. I just realised I've lost my notes. Alright, my notes. Okay. So I released the game on Friday last week, and it went okay. It wasn't, you know, oh my word, I'm dying already. Why? What's setting this difficulty in mind? Why don't do that? Yeah, it's not, you know, like exploded or anything. It's just sort of happened. I think it basically went about as well as I could have expected it to. I'm going to turn the sound effects back up a little bit because it's kind of weird not having any. And yeah, I don't really know what else to say on that. It's not. It went. I got a single review saying that they couldn't be bothered to play through the tutorial because Bill was walking too slow. I only really apologise for that. Some people have played it for a while actually, and they're not all people that I know. You can see on the Steam the player stats. You sort of get a rough idea of how long people are playing it for and things like that. Some people have played it for more than 10 hours, apparently. I don't know whether that's accurate. I don't know how. I'm not aware of any misreporting in Steam data like that. I realize I've got the background keyboard on. Don't need that. Yeah, my laptop. I was thinking not earlier, but the other day, I was like, given how much of a difference doing the lighting with my GPU makes compared to doing it with my CPU, maybe I didn't need to buy a new laptop. But just listening to it, feeling it now, I'm like, yeah, I definitely need to buy a new laptop. So that was not a waste of time or money. There have been some issues with the game in terms of bugs and stuff, which I think I have fixed all of, beyond just outright performance being atrocious, apparently. Oh, which is frustrating. Anyway, on Friday last week I did like this massive stream of. The idea was I was going to stream until I released the game, and the idea was that it wouldn't take that long. But I found a really problematic issue immediately and had to then fix it. And then also, the plan was to wait for Xbox to certify that latest update and then release it there and then, because I thought that would only take a few hours. That didn't happen. It didn't actually certify anything at all until the following week, because, well, I guess they just don't do stuff on weekends. But I ended up submitting a whole bunch of extra updates over the weekend anyway, so it was like, it didn't really matter in the end. It was just the version that got released was better in the end than what would have been on Friday. So I did release a Steam version on Friday though. So yeah, I didn't have any immediate bugs or anything like straight away, but then I was speaking to somebody on Sunday who had played it, I think most of the way through, pretty much all the way through actually, and there were a few issues that they found. So one of them was actually, and this, I can't really test this now, but one of them was when you go to buy a glider, if you do it before you buy the stuff, then you can't buy it even after you've bought the stuff. And that actually, I think, annoyingly, was quite a recently introduced bug, because I changed the way that. Need need to find like a chest or something so I can show you what I mean. If I go to... Where can I find a chest? Oh, I might have already opened this one. Where's the... Where am I? Oh, yeah. Okay, I need to find a chest. Or can I talk to... Oh, is this one with... Oh, I not actually complete this. Why not completed? Sure. Oh, that's... Okay, I can do this one. Alright, let's start with this. Not quite right, I don't think. Okay, so when I talk to this guy, when I press the talk button, originally what was happening was that the prompt to talk was staying up for the whole conversation, but I changed it so that it would disappear as soon as you start the conversation, like so. And I think that's what broke the glider thing. Because the way that works is that it essentially checks, do you have a particular item in your inventory? And if yes, then it will allow you to spawn an item based off of that. And that works the same way with like all the keys and the stones and stuff when you like place it to open portals and open doors and stuff like that. It's going, have you picked up this item? Okay, great, then we can do that. I could have done that based on quest progress instead, but I didn't because I thought this would be a more applicable system, and in the end obviously it was useful for the gliders. The issue with the gliders is that it has that extra panel that says, oh, you don't have it if you don't have it. And then because I was turning things off, is he moving? I've seen this like months ago where they move for some reason. Oh, just well, that was ugly. Is he still moving? No, it seems to only be when you're talking to him. I don't really know. Was that? Anyway. What was I saying? Right, the inventory stuff. So yeah, you go. What happens is the prompt to go by the gladiator was just getting turned off by the fact that you'd already gone and failed. So anyway, I fixed that by just completely changing how it works. So rather than being two separate prompts, it was just one prompt that changed the text, which made a lot more sense. And I don't know why I didn't do all of that to start with, but here we are. So I fixed that, and then I also made it so that if somebody had already had the issue, then hopefully they can now go back and have it rectified so they can go by the glider. Another thing I did. I've been messing about with lighting quite a bit. It's still not perfect because you've got these black lines. Now this is where I was about 20 minutes ago when the game just crashed because I tried to turn the quality settings up, so I'm not going to do that. But yeah, I've been trying to get rid of these lines. It was a lot worse. I don't know if anybody would have seen it earlier on, but it was a lot worse, and it was just all over these igloos. I just don't know why I couldn't seem to find. It wasn't any of the obvious fixes. I just don't know why he stood here. Oh well. Oh, okay, that's something that changed. Alright, I've put out an update every day this week, or at least one update every day this week, so it's not really a surprise that I've got more to do. Expedition indicated. Let's finish this one, shall we? Yeah, so the lighting was also an issue in the first area. That was an easier fix because that was just ticking a box essentially to say, "Can you please be better?" And then it just was. My laptop is screaming again. It's nice to know that the fan is at least. Ah, come on. Those black lines are very annoying. I know how to fix that at least, but it's. I mean, I guess if I'm doing an update anyway, I might as well. But still, it's annoying. I want to try and fix everything I can, like, early on. Come on there, why is that? Come on. Come on! Anyway. Can we not? What was I talking about? Oh, the lighting and stuff. Yeah, the lighting is mostly fixed. There's a few issues still, obviously. It's good enough that I'm not too fussed about it right now. Another thing, I balanced the way the freeze spell works, because that was a bit wrong to start with. I haven't got the freeze spell. Have I not got the freeze spell? I still got it. 4. Okay, I can get the freeze. Kill. Actually, I can completely get the freeze spell. So this thing wasn't working because I'd made it so that the freeze duration was actually longer than the slow duration, so you just never saw it slow. So I reduced the freeze duration. Essentially, let's go. No, I like this one. Hold on. I changed this right at the end. Like one of the last things I did was making it so those fireballs worked properly. I saw a chest. I did not see a chest. What else have I done this week? Oh, okay. So two other things I did. Bits of feedback that I got. One was the jumping. This is just something I'd kind of ignored. Not even ignored. I just hadn't noticed. Like since one of the very first things I would have done back when I made the first block, so like 3.5 years ago, was implement the jumping. And I just never went back to it because I was like, yep, that's fine, that's sorted. And then somebody was saying that if you try and like spam jump, it just doesn't quite feel right. And it turns out what I was doing was I was adding an upward velocity to the player's velocity. The issue with that is that if you're falling down, there's a line that kind of goes, how close am I to the ground? And when you're close enough to the ground, you can jump again. However, at that point, you might still be technically falling. So if you just add the velocity, then it essentially just cancels out because you've just got a perfect arc up and down. So your velocity, you press jump, but your velocity just ends up at 0 and you have to press jump again. So that shouldn't be a thing anymore. That's... Wait. Oh, I love that. That's fun. I mean, it's kind of useless for single target, but still. What was I saying? Okay, yeah, so jumping is fixed. Another thing was when you go to the arena, if you go to the arena, you were able to access all of the entry points by using the AoE attack, which is to say this one. So I fixed that, basically to make it so that you can't do that. Like specifically, just you can't. So that was that one. Are these guys, are they all happy now? Ah, they're all happy. That's good to see. And yeah, that was I think it for Sunday. Monday, another bit of feedback I got was that so in the final boss fight, what you're supposed to do, and this is a little secret for anybody watching this playing the game. You can't really damage the dragon unless you hit him by the tail. Like there's not just the tail, but like the big ball on the end of the tail. And what I did to try and encourage that was not good enough. Essentially, what I did was make it so that you did very reduced damage if you hit him anywhere else. And what happens is when you get close to him, you whack the tail into the floor, and then it gets stuck, and you can attack it. So what I've done to make that slightly more obvious is I've made the tail flash red, which I think happens in a lot of like boss fights. If there's like a particular weak point, it'll start flashing for you to sort of target. But I copied that and I did that. So hopefully that's a bit more obvious now. The only thing with that is that I made it so that you don't do any damage now if you hit him anywhere else, which means if you don't figure that out, you will never end the boss fight. We'll see how that goes. Tuesday, I'm actually quite this was some quite important stuff I did. One, let's go this way. Which reminds me of some other stuff that I did. I've not got a timer on this one actually. I'm sorry. Oh, I can see it from here. This is the first time I've ever been able to just see it conveniently. I don't know why it's always out of the way usually. I think I might have changed the layout slightly when I started streaming last week. Not sure. If I go, is it this way? I think it's this way. Yeah. Okay. Cool. That's fine. So, the floaty. Okay. I've never named them as floaties, but that's what they are. Basically, the little enemies that just float towards you and then do damage. They are called floaties. So this guy, but the smaller versions, they were doing double damage for quite a while, and the reason for that is that the player has two colliders, and it was hitting both colliders and registering them as separate hits. Now, with every other type of damage, because every other enemy uses like a weapon that's been separately made. Okay. Yay. That was broken as well. You couldn't pick up that helmet properly. So I fixed that. But yeah, so the floaties were hitting two colliders, which meant you were taking double damage. And yeah, every other method of dealing damage had a system of saying, okay, check who this collider belongs to. What I mean by collider is like a hitbox essentially. It's like it's just this is an area that if the weapon touches, then you will do damage to this character. That's what I mean by collider. So the player had two hitboxes, which meant that you could take double damage because everything else was saying, okay, check who this hitbox belongs to and make sure I don't re-damage that person on this attack. The floaty didn't have that because all it was just if I touch you, you take damage. So what I've done is made it so that when it touches a player or a character, they will take damage, except they will then wait until they stopped touching that character to allow them to re-damage that character. And they do it by character rather than by specific hitbox, so it stops the double damage. Another thing I did. So on Wednesday, so yeah, if you were thinking that those little guys were doing way too much damage, that's probably why. So they should be a bit easier now. On Wednesday, I fixed the thing where sometimes you would load into a scene or load up a game, and if there was a pop-up, like a panel in front of you saying something, like a prompt to go somewhere or do something, it would have the wrong instruction. I think that's mostly working now. I'm not 100% sure, but we can. If I go over here, this could be a good way to test it. Another thing I did. So it's good that I'm here because I can show it. Now, if I turn around, there's a chest there. Yay! If I turn around and go in here, it shouldn't break. I had an issue where I hadn't set up the load point properly for when you come through this portal to go in this way, and it meant that the load sequence didn't happen properly, and as a result, there is a secret player 2 in this game, and the reason for that is because I had split screen in the original block, and I thought I might one day put it into this game, maybe. I haven't got around to it yet, and obviously it's not going to come for a long time if I ever do, because there are a lot of potential issues with it. I've kept it in the back of my head, so I've tried to mitigate any potential future problems if I did introduce it as I go, but for now it doesn't exist. But because it wasn't getting turned off properly, so I can't remember why, but the player 2 needs to be turned on at the start when it loads, and then separately turned off. Now, it wasn't getting to the point where it was turning player 2 off, so you would come in here, and it doesn't seem like anybody encountered this, I don't think. There's no reason, really, for the player to come back to this area, which is a relief, because this is the only area that was properly broken. The player 2 would appear, and then their camera would also turn on, which means the screen would be cut in half. And it was the closest thing to a game-breaking bug, I think, that we had up to that point, that I'm aware of, at least. A few people have reported crashes, and obviously this crashed like half an hour ago. I think it's just a bit intensive, which is not good. It might be that I'm doing something like really dumb. There might be some sort of memory leak or something somewhere that's, causing like genuine issues. But I don't think that's the case. I'm not sure. Anyway, so I fixed that, and then also there are a lot of other transitions like to and from dungeons and to and from different areas. They didn't actually quite have the right spawn locations set up, so I had to do that. It was mostly going backwards. Going forwards, obviously, I tested completely, but coming backwards, I'd not bothered. I'd not bothered to go backwards through the game because why would I? But yeah, I made sure all that was good. I also fixed a very tiny thing where actually I couldn't even show off now, but if you either had no started or no complete quests, but you had some of the others, and then you scrolled, like flicked between the two, then the positioning of these buttons wouldn't be quite right. Very tiny. I can't imagine it bothered anyone, and you could fix it quite easily by just scrolling anyway. So, but I fixed that, and then I fixed the bars at the top, the health, energy, and fuel bars weren't quite right because there was a gap at the top, or it was either the top or the bottom. I think it was just really inconsistent and really annoying. But anyway, I managed to fix it, so that gap is largely gone now. Yeah. So also, my dad found a few things, and then decided to just not tell me about them. So I ended up finding screenshots that he'd taken on his Xbox because I was just like curious, and I was like, why didn't you just tell me that this was an issue? So one thing, if you go to if you go to the gardener in the first area, go to the garden. Good. If you're wet, right, that's kind of obvious. But if you hit this guy, his head would just disappear. So some other people might have found that, I'm not sure. But it was because I hadn't loaded in the model for, so where his face changes there, I hadn't loaded that in properly. So yeah, it was just saying, oh, there isn't one, so we'll just go bye-bye. So that was kind of funny. And then also the other one was, oh, okay, so let's see if this works. So I'll play this as I normally play it. So what I normally do is just this. I click, it starts running, and then I just skip past it. And then I read the completed text afterwards. And that's how I do all games. That's fine. And it's also fine if you do sit and wait for it. Except for when I added colour to this bit here. Now see, it works now because I fixed it. But before, what it was doing, to add colour to text like this, you have to type out a tag, bit like HTML and a few other things. It's called like rich text. So you type a tag, and so it's got like angle brackets, and it's got like slashes, and it said like color equals, and then it's got like hexadecimal code and stuff. And it didn't occur to me, because the way this text sort of scrolling works is it just grabs one character at a time, except those tags are part of the text. And without the complete tag, it won't recognize it as you trying to change the color, and it will just see the characters themselves. So it will just start printing out like the angle brackets and the equals and the hexadecimal code and stuff, which is really dumb, and I don't want that. So what I had to do was as I was scanning through the text in code, it has to go, alright, have we hit a tag? Like every time it reaches a new character, it goes, is this part of a tag? And if so, it needs to skip to the end of the opening tag, then start printing out the text that I want, so like the actual words, poor, average, good, and then add the closing tag at the other end, and then when it gets to the end, it needs to skip to the end of the closing tag so that it can move on to the next thing. Which is annoyingly complicated for such a small thing. And this is the only time it comes up. So that was an extra like hour and a half yesterday of doing that. And that's it. I think that's pretty much everything I've fixed this week. I want to try and get to a point where it's like not doing anything. Like I'm happy, like perfectly happy with where the game's at. Because what I want to do eventually, hold on a second, I'm just realised I'm level 30. Like, oh, I don't have a skill. Okay, this is important. I want to try and upgrade my Unity version to see if that makes any difference to performance. New Unity has come with a lot of changes, and I do think some of them are performance related. However, I also think that I'll need to make some other changes to make use of that. Now, what I mean by that is that Unity has something called render pipelines. Now, I don't really understand render pipelines properly, because I've never had to, and I just stick with the default. However, I still leveled up, come on. Need a skill point. However, when you... Let me see that, I think let me see. Come on. Yeah! Right. Yeah, I don't know how render pipelines work, really, but I think essentially it's just Unity's kind of inbuilt, this is the process that I'm going to go through to display things. I think that's loosely what it translates to. And it has what's called a built-in render pipeline, which is what I've always used. It has the universal render pipeline, which is what I'm considering, and also has the high definition render pipeline, which there's no point considering because it's for more like realistic graphics and stuff, which obviously we're not dealing with. The reason I'm considering switching to Universal Render Pipeline is because supposedly in the latest version of Unity it got a bit of a performance buff, I think. And it might take a bit of work to make use of that, but if it's going to be less performance heavy than the current setup, I think it's worth exploring. Because it still doesn't run particularly well on an Xbox One. It runs fine on this laptop when I'm not recording anything, but obviously, like, when I am, I've had to turn the quality settings right down, and my laptop's still screaming. So yeah, that's my future plan, is to deal with that. Hopefully get a bit of a performance boost, and if not, then oh well. You know, I'll at least have some extra features, or you know, I don't have to commit to it. But I kind of just want to get to a point where I don't want to have two versions of the project, because that's what I'm going to have to do at the moment. If I wanted to do it now, I would have to keep a version of the project in this old, in the current Unity version, so that I can keep releasing updates to fix bugs and stuff while I'm making sure that the new version works. And that would just be a whole pain. So I want to get it to a point where I'm fairly confident there are no pressing matters that I need to deal with, and then I can upgrade Unity, and then that's it, and then that's the end. I don't know. It might not make any difference at all, to be honest. I can't imagine it's going to be orders of magnitude, because I think kind of when I say there are supposedly performance improvements, it's, you know, footnotes rather than headlines. It's not people going, oh, you really need to switch to this now, because it's like, it's huge. It's just kind of a, yeah, it might help if your project happens to be right for it. Like, it is very dependent on the project that you've got. You know, they might not all, like this project just might not benefit from it at all. It might not tick the right boxes, so it's something to try, but something I don't want to try until I've kind of got the stability with the rest of the game to carry on with that. And yeah, that's kind of it. So yeah, release went okay. I'm hoping I get some more reviews. I don't know, I kind of just want more reviews. Just do, which would make me happy. The Microsoft version that took forever to release hasn't really gone very far. Like, it's not, I don't know, it's not, it doesn't seem to be, I couldn't download it on this laptop actually, which is interesting. It said that the version of Windows that I've got wasn't up to date enough. Which is kind of confusing and slightly annoying, but I think I've got at least a starting point on that, because obviously I can run it through Steam, so it's not the game itself that's requiring a higher Windows version. There's some step in between me making the game and the game getting to the the Xbox Store that's saying, oh no, your version of Windows isn't good enough. So I'll have to figure that out. The wishlist count at the end of all that, it actually went up quite a lot after releasing, by about 100 actually, which I've only just noticed. And most of the people who've played the game on Steam, I would say about 80% of the people who've played the game on Steam came from wishlists. The wishlist conversion rate, which is an interesting one, is about 20%, which, according to a very quick Google search, is about average after a week. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, about 60 or so, 64 people out of the current 301 wishlists. Actually, no, it didn't go up by 100. It went up by about 50 because that's not counting the ones who at some point unwishlisted it. Just in total, the people who have ever pressed wishlist of that, there are 64 of them who have now played the game. Yeah, so that's kind of it. This is probably the last video I'll do. I might do one, if I do end up upgrading the Unity version and stuff like that, I might do a video on that. Assuming it works. You know, if I can actually get an update out that utilizes that, then I probably will. You know, it'd be really nice if this just ran a bit smoother. I mean, at the moment, it's just because I'm recording. Honestly, it's not too bad if you just turn the quality settings down. And to be honest, I don't know if it's just because I'm getting used to it, but I don't think it looks that bad. Like, it obviously looks better with the quality settings up. And the main reason for that is the shadows. But it doesn't look that bad. It looked really bad. So I did something last week where... I'll go in here quickly. I'm gonna get... Yep! Makes me laugh. Okay, yeah. So there are lights in here. Now, what looked really bad was being in here, and we would have... Because this whole building isn't casting a shadow, and you could say, oh, but it's a static shadow, you can just get it done statically. No, I can't, because this isn't a static shadow, which means you just have this massive ray of light coming in even when the door was shut, which would look stupid. At least that's the logic I've gone with. But it looked really, really bright in here when you had these lights on and also that light coming in through overhead. So what I did is I made it so that if you turn the quality settings all the way down so that there are no shadows, then you can turn certain lights down as well, so that it kind of simulates, if you like, being in a darker area, pretty much. I guess, do you know what I could do? No, that would be stupid. I was gonna say I could just make it so that when I enter this, the main light turns down. But obviously you can see here that it's like it would suddenly just get darker, which I think would be stupid. So I'll leave that. But that's, I don't know, maybe an option. Maybe. Oh, I just realised what's around that corner. So yeah, it looked really bright in here because you had all these lights on and they were really bright. So I've turned those lights down when you're on low quality so that it sort of simulates just being in a darker area. Another chest. Potions. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Yeah, so if you're playing on an Xbox One, turn the quality down. I might try and make it so that it by default turns the quality down on an Xbox One. But I'm not sure. Obviously that comes with a bit of a risk, but and it might be that Xbox Ones that aren't mine are slightly better. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, that's kind of it. That's all the things I fixed this week. I have, as I say, I've released an update every single day, at least one update every single day so far since releasing the game, and today will not be an exception to that. I probably won't do one tomorrow. I don't think. I'm not really sure. I did last Saturday, but then that was different. Anyway, so the Steam count is now at like 184, I think. So hopefully that will reach 0 at some point because everybody will have downloaded the game. And I will see you at some point. Maybe.